New load of ammo. Last 2 rounds we had bad primers on them. So I hope this works again. 8mm Mauser, Kar 98 German rifle. Bolt action. Nice.
Good.
Jesus. No wonder we got our asses kicked for a long time.
Grifter Grounds. The Stocking Mill Coffee Company. For some reason, Grifter is always coffee. Like the stupid, like Black Rifle coffee. It's always someone who has no political dedication whatsoever, who is not, who wants your money and will give you coffee as if it's better than, I find it hard to believe any of this is going to be better than the libtard coffee like Starbucks or whatever. I'd never go to Black Rifle coffee. I'd never go to Stocking Mill coffee. But the Stocking Mill coffee, this is some kind of conservatard grifter, and this guy's big deal now is if anyone says he's big into Russia, and he's getting vocal like many others, vocally pro-Russian war. But his big thing is he'll call people out. This is a tough guy, some kind of vaguely veteran Stocking Mill. And this guy will get in your face, or you see it where he, if you like Ukraine so much, why don't you go there? Go there, tough guy. And once you fight, then tell me how we need to whoop-de-woo. And everyone who comes across him, he puts on this tough guy thing and tells people that if they're going to insist that the U.S. government supports continuing to back up an ally, then actually they need to go themselves. that they need to go fight themselves to prove they're as tough as Stocking Mill coffee grifter grounds. I don't think this guy's tough at all. And he'll put his address out there. By all means, Google Stocking Mill coffee and leave a 1-star review. This isn't a big company, but he's trying to turn it into like Black Rifle. Maybe a slightly. Maybe he figures. I think the grift here is Black Rifle coffee. They cut this far, and then you get a little less cut this far, and then you get that market share. And but not, do any of these people believe any of this stuff? Would you call this guy a patriot? I myself would not. I think that these people are all, once you're a certain kind of a lowlife, you're just a Bolshevized mass of idiocy. This is cowardice, and it makes me very mad. This level of cowardice where you're going to act like you're a veteran and you're going to get in people's face for supporting a war effort. It's a cowardly move. You are a coward if you do this. And it's really irresponsible. It's really dumb. It makes no sense. But more than anything, it just shows the cowardice inside your own heart. You don't have the heart. And I think most of the people, a lot of people will come up with they've got their reasons why they're not fighting on the front line. First and foremost, this isn't our country. No one needs to go fight in some war, so it's the dumbest thing to tell people that it's like if someone says support our troops, Stocking Mill coffee will just get in their face and say, oh, support our troops. You need to fight yourself. you need to get in the trenches, or you're shut up about supporting our troops if you don't. Right. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people who might be more valuable to not fight on the front line. It's just the dumbest. These people are just throwing wrenches in the gears. It's a kind of Bolshevist agitprop to have these idiot, brute, stocking mill grifter grounds just yelling at people that they need to fight and prove themselves. And if they're so tough, if they want to. Look, Russia started the war. Grifter Grounds is a coward, and it's been I'm dealing with these people on Twitter, and this guy gets in my face, and Stocky Mill Coffee owes me money because this guy he says he'll give me money to go to. This is what he comes out with, and I want the money. If Stocky Mill will give me all the travel funds to go to Ukraine, I'm going to use it. But that's what he says. He says, I'll pay for your travel fare to Ukraine if you go. I tell Stocking Mill, all right, give me the money and I'll go. It's fair enough. He made the offer. I mean, I think this is a dumb offer, but that's what he says. But now he won't give me the money. And he said he'd give me enough for a battle buddy too. In particular, he said Malcolm Nance. It's always some like GOP person who assumes you're more liberal than them. So I bet he should give me money to pay for 2 people to go to Ukraine. I think that funding should be, if he's going to offer to give me the money, I say give me the money. And maybe not Malcolm Nance, but he should pay for 2, because he says a battle buddy. He says he'll do it. Where's the money, Stocking Mill? Stocking Mill is a company. I mean, this is a Bolshevik tactic. It's just a matter of getting just agitprop, and this guy will lie and just say anything, because one minute he says in a tweet to me, this is the owner of the company. He says, I hate Russia and Ukraine, but these people all say that. And anytime you look at the profile of someone who says, I hate Russia and Ukraine, or I don't support either side, or I just want them both to kill each other, or you could just look at their profile and you find just nothing but Russian propaganda. But in their mind, it's, I'm an independent thinker. I came up with this myself. They don't get that someone else is just screwed with their brain. These are low IQ people. And if you're this kind of low IQ brute, you need to just shut up. I'm dealing with these people. I mean, they can. I'm used to them having their spiteful words and their kind of resentment. It means nothing to me, because I know that if you're that inferior, you can't even recognize your superiors. So, and the internet is kind of like a leveling thing right there, where there's no one's a badass on the internet. You're brought to the level of everyone, which is good and bad. But if you speak a certain way, you should kind of have to back it up, prove what you're saying. This should mean something. Your words aren't just all falling to the ground. But we have a people now who are just so screwed up. I mean, we have in Lahaina in Hawaii, this isn't a big town. And we're talking about a town, I mean, this is like it's a pretty historic town. And if you go there, there's all the stuff from the Hawaiian Kingdom, and it's just real old. There isn't a lot else like it. It reminds in some ways the setup is kind of like Waimea and Kauai, but Lahaina is it's much more tourist town. It's a much more impressive thing to see. It's something, or it was. It's wiped out. I heard something like over 80 people are confirmed dead now out of a small community. and it's really sad. In Hawaii, it's like everyone kind of knows each other, and these towns aren't that big, so you can imagine the kind of impact that this is having. And then you have all these fools who'll just jump in and just say it's a direct energy weapon that I'm sorry, but that's quite an accusation, and it's the cowardice that underlies all this stuff. That it's a kind of nihilism where they think that the government is just wiping out towns, yet they're not like insurgent or anything. Like they're just fine with it, just go about their day. But they'll let you know that they think they are smart enough to know that it's the government who's just killing people, but they don't care that much. It's unbelievable. The callousness of some of these people, like the Q boomer people who, I mean, they don't care that however many people are dead, and it's just about making it. I mean, Grenell, the Trump appointed ambassador, old ambassador to Germany, and this guy is a degenerate, and he's a Trump guy, and this guy takes it up the tailpipe, and Grenell, and even though maybe the people in Germany didn't want their relationship with the United States to be characterized by like a person like that, but that's who Trump appoints as the ambassador to Germany. And Grenell runs his mouth and says and makes it about Ukraine. Like it's these people are so pro Russia from Flynn and down, like that he says, oh, Hawaii, you remember next election that your money went to Ukraine, as if Ukraine burned down, like the money would have kept Lahaina from. It's complete cynical callousness. These people don't care about human life or Americans or our towns. Like it's a nice town that got wiped out. It's where you I mean, it's just unbelievable that we have these scumbags like Grenell who'll just say this stuff. And people in Hawaii don't respond to this, by the way. These are, I mean, in Hawaii, you get around by, I get around just by respect and sincerity. And those are the two things, and maybe a little bit of charm. But those two things are what'll get you around. And these are two things. Someone like Grenell has no respect or no sincerity. I just mean to point out that this is like a cancer that is infecting the whole, I mean, just all American society, but in particular, we have like this Bolshevized right wing. I mean, this is a low life thing, and I mean, communism and Bolshevism. We're not really talking about Marxist theory, and we're not getting into dialectic materialism. We're just talking about just inferior brute people who are just gonna crap all over everything and try to rule themselves, and maybe they will. I mean, this kind of person rules in Russia already, and this kind of person would take over we would have a completely Bolshevized low-life society if we just let the stocking mill I mean, frankly, as much as like I don't have a lot to prove, frankly, and I'm not like trying to get my dissident card punched. Like I feel like I have it, and I'm more than comfortable to say that I just find the opposition to the establishment even just more gross and disgusting than even the actual establishment, which I've already said how I feel over for over a decade. But why get rid of that and replace it with something even worse? It's just that has all the bad. Anything bad you could say about what Brandon does, you could say that these people, it germinates in them as well. and even worse. All of it. The only thing that they don't have going for them is anything good. Like at least with Brandon, I could say that so far, at least they're somewhat. I don't think they're doing good right now in providing support for Ukraine. I feel like there's reason to. We're getting to the point where there's reason to call it out. Whereas before, I'd say that they're doing good. But it's still better than someone who would just openly support Russia. And that's the thing. And then the stocking mill people, and then the next thing you know, they just support Russia. They'll say, I hate Russia, but then you press them a little bit, and then they really are into Russia. And I mean, their heads just totally filled with the Russian stuff. Anyway, I don't appreciate all these kind of comments. For me, it's no big deal because if they, people will change the goalpost, and here's how it goes like this quite a bit. And for however long, if anyone who knows me, if you know me, for a long time, I didn't really like to point out that I was a veteran or something. And a lot of times, if veteran type people would come up to me and say, like a protest or something, they'd say, hey, I fought for your freedom to say that. I fought for your freedom to say that. If I'm saying something against the country, which I have, I'll admit. But I would almost never, if ever, I wouldn't say the same thing. I would typically say, well, if that's true, if you fought for my freedom to say this, then you should be happy, that I'm using it. And for however long, people say, well, why don't you tell them that you're a veteran yourself or so? But the way I look at it, there's just really no point, like if what I say, because however many veterans will say very dumb things. So don't, like, it's not like you should give them, if a veteran says something like idiotic, then it's not idiotic anymore. But and that's usually what I'd run into. So I wouldn't want to say like, well, I'm a veteran, because it's not like my words now I have a right to speak. But in some ways, you maybe you're a little more qualified. Maybe on military matters or something. I don't think it's inappropriate for people to defer to people with the experience. I mean, I deal with it a lot. People bring stuff to me or this or that. But you don't want to make it a big thing of like, I'm a veteran. And for the most part, for most of the time since I was discharged, since I got an honorable discharge, I didn't really like to bring it up, even to get like a discount or something. I'm getting more comfortable bringing it up. And it's just, but let's say another person doesn't have military experience. Well, I feel bad for them. And I think about like how maybe during the war in Iraq, there might have been people who say, because I would think about how like it just was like there weren't a lot of voices that would like back up what you're doing. It's just, at the time, it was just all bad media just lying. But it's probably part of it is this kind of brute idiot. If somebody were to say like, hey, I think that actually there's good things going on with the war, or so, somebody say, well, if that's what you think, why aren't you on the front line? Or so it's like you can't, and then what are you going to say? You're going to say, this person might say, well, I have to go to college, or I have, I have another job, I have an injury, I have children, I have a wife, whatever might, I have a sick parents to take care of, whatever, obviously, whatever they're going to say is going to seem like an excuse. It's going to be laughed at. So they're not even going to say anything. So really, this is just a way to erode any kind of pro-war, pro-defense, pro-military support. Just because anybody who supports the troops, you're going to have this kind of resentful spiteful idiot, just that underman is going to come up at you with this kind of accusation. And this is what this kind of Bolshevized subhuman just fool does. I mean, I find it super offensive because it's like anyone who just is going to support the troops, you're going to say that to, or like if my mom says support the troops, you're gonna that's what you're gonna say. You need to be fighting on the front line. Hate to tell you, this should be common sense to anyone but stocking mill coffee, but not Americans aren't even being asked to fight in Ukraine, and the only reason we'd ever need to really send people is after Russia. If we let Russia win, then yeah. Then guess what? We're going to be fighting. Our children will be fighting in a war in the future, guaranteed. So it's the future. It's the future you're building, and it's I don't necessarily think these people are so funny when they just want to ruin everything, just throwing bombs at everything for no reason. We just should let these Bolshevized, orc type people like just dominate everything. I'm sick of it, and then they'll say whatever else. They contaminate everything. They'll say they're Christian, and then just examine their belief, and it's Satanism. But people will think this is a Christian. You look at enough of these people, and then you start to wonder about your own religion. I'll be like, huh, but. The Bible says there's tons of false, phony Christians, and there's going to be tons of the most evil people call themselves Christian. The most rotten, reprobate people will call themselves Christian, and then they'll say that they're conservative Christian. And these are the people who will just fall for everything, and because they are hollow themselves, and everything for them is surface level, and they're just going to go with whatever as a vehicle to just cause harm and hurt people and to gain for themselves. So they'll call whatever Christianity. I mean, you have now it's becoming such a weird smorgasbord of nonsense where these conservatives are now like, they're like simping for like some like weird African war of liberation. I don't even think really, I have my doubts anything really is going on in Africa. I mean, yeah, prove me wrong. I don't care. But for the most part, if some like Justin Hinkle type guy is going on about Africa, you have no idea. Probably most of the African people in this country would just be confused. Same as like Rage Against the Machine fans would always pretend like there's a war going on in Mexico and like Chiapas with like Subcomandante Marcos. There's no real war. But these people think that there's some kind of but you could create this kind of illusion, like as if there is some kind of conflict going on. If you have a guy like dress up in web gear and put the beret on, and you could make a show of it. But as we used to say in the playground, you make a fist. You used to make a fist. That's what. If you're gonna act like this is a big African thing, you have like wait till there's actual fighting. Beyond that, we'll see. But as for anything else, to just lash out at anybody who's people who are pro Ukraine are good people in general, because this is a cut and dry type thing, and one nation gets invaded by another, and there's no good reason for it except the one lies and gaslights about a fake Holocaust and fake all this stuff, that ethnic Russians are being, nothing that really makes a lot of sense or justifies the war. And then so it's super easy. There is kind of a good guy here. There is a good guy. There's a bad guy, and if you're gonna just say like defund Ukraine, pull all the funding, then yeah, Russia's gonna win. And here's why these people, Mearsheimer points out that this is why actually nobody, including Trump, is gonna ever pull out funding from Ukraine, because then Russia would win, and these people have the brains of goldfish. And once Russia takes over everything, it's going to be a big blame game on who screwed all that up. Who's responsible for the creation of the next Soviet Union? For one, it's stocking milk coffee, but for two, it'd be whoever else, Trump or whoever else pulls. So what Mearsheimer, and I don't respect Mearsheimer. I just think it's interesting that the people who otherwise refer to Mearsheimer no longer do, because now they have no hope of, say, Mearsheimer would tell them that there ain't no funding for Ukraine that's going to get cut, because it would be a disaster. Now, the problem I have is that they're going to keep funding at a level of like where you won't be able to get a decisive victory either. So this is another problem. The big thing though is stocking milk coffee. Go to just Google stocking milk coffee, leave them a 1-star review or whatever. No, I mean I'm serious, because I think it's a punk move. Because if somebody is like supporting Ukraine, then they're doing good. Then they're a good Samaritan. That's more of a Christian move than most Christians will probably ever do in their life. Most American Christians will probably never do like a single good deed, and if they, the majority of these people are not going to make it into heaven either. But if they, if one of these kind of people actually are like a saved Christian, then I mean, I'm telling you, most of these people never do a single like good deed in their life. And even something like I would say, if you back a country that's like under attack by like this other like evil country, if you're backing this country, you're like trying to save people, trying to save human life, that's a good deed. Like, I think Christianity is about that. I think the Bible supports that. But some people, I mean, otherwise these pro-lifers just want Russia to kill everybody, and that's going to be their good deed. For what? They act like the money being sent to Ukraine is mostly in the form of weapons that are getting old anyway, that we might as well just use. And it might be better if a Ukrainian soldier can fire this stuff off, if they can competently fire this stuff off at the enemy. It might be better than if we send our Americans to go do it, which is going to happen if stocking milk coffee gets their way. So you see, none of this stuff makes any sense. To just say, like, the most sensible thing is just support Ukraine. Nobody needs to go. If anybody does go and volunteers to go, yeah, that's a noble thing. I don't think they need to do it. Like, otherwise, like, so, and so people are barking at me. I need to do it. And of course they'll change the goalposts with everything. Like, because people come at you, you would only send other people's kids to die. You would never fight in a war. And then you say, actually, I did fight in a war. I did fight in, really, when I was 18, I did volunteer, and I went into a combat unit, and I went overseas multiple times, and I fought in the heaviest combat that was available to me, and there you go. But then they're gonna just start ripping, like, it every time. They're gonna, oh well, you only fought, these goat herders and poor, third world, farmers and I hate to tell you, but that's not that much different than a Russian. Okay, and if you it's like if we fought the Russians, then China was like the next. Then they would be like, oh, you only fought these drunken third world Russians from their in their hovels and their huts, and these people don't even have running water, electricity. It's just stupid Russian. Like you only fought. Well, I hate to tell you, a Russian's not that different than an Iraqi. And you just look at most of the Russian Federation's troops. They don't look that much different than Iraqi. They don't have a level of. I mean, Iraq probably has more paved roads. Saddam probably paved more roads than the Soviet Union did. And the Soviet Union and Russia is not. I mean, the problem is America doesn't have a worthy adversary. And before the U.S. fought Saddam the first time, people predicted like massive casualties, and then we just hit these people and they melt away, which would be exactly what would happen if the U.S. fought Russia. Now, I'm not going to pretend like the Russian army isn't a little bit tougher of a thing than Al Qaeda in Iraq or something. Anytime you're dealing with people who have like artillery batteries and you're within artillery range, I mean, I'd rather not do that. Yeah, I understand. Like Al Qaeda's 120 millimeter mortars aren't the same thing, and their IEDs aren't quite the same as that. I get it. Like, but give me a break. We just because we didn't have like, okay, it's a slightly it's a bit tougher of a war. Okay. But they would just change the goalpost again. Anyhow, I personally think war is dope. I love fighting in the war. I loved Iraq. I really liked it. And personally, I don't recommend. I think it'd be irresponsible if I were to recommend people to go like fight in Ukraine or like volunteer, because you could very well die. You very well could die. Like I don't want that. It's like so. I mean, and it's not. It is a voluntary thing. There is an adventurous aspect to it. Like if you want that kind of adventure in your life, by all means, but it's not a response. Like I have 5 kids. It'd be dumb. If you have 5 kids, just no one's asking you to go, except for Stocking Mill Coffee. They want you to go and prove yourself, even though Stocking Mill Coffee, is a coward himself, whether or not he says he's a vet. Well, you know what? You're a coward, and no matter how many people you challenge to a fight on the internet, and no matter how many people you try to say aren't tough enough to do this or that, or you are a coward, Stocking Mill Coffee, and your coffee is for cowards and just Bolshevize the orcs. I would never drink your filth coffee. Like I'd just go to Starbucks, or I'd go to the libtard coffee place, where they actually like. I mean, are these conservatards like farming coffee anywhere? Where are they? They're just getting their beans from like Papua New Guinea highlands or wherever they get these freaking coffee beans. Like, why is it their thing all the time? They're just into they're connoisseurs of coffee. It's just a grift that they could put their stupid logos all over. It makes me sick. And then they're gonna weigh in on foreign policy with their dumb calls. They already are affecting foreign policy. I think what's going on with Brandon is that they're already scared of the agitation and the amount of that stuff that the Russians are causing. And I think that this stuff is from Russians, because I just find it hard to believe like someone could be really that callous in America, like unless it's just a complete sociopath reprobate who's just running all this conservative media. Because whoever it is, they know they're lying. the typical the kind of cowardly stocking milk coffee customer I'm talking about, like most of these people probably don't know how much Russian propaganda they take in. They think that they're just taking in alternative conservative media. They don't trust the mainstream media. They just want, but then, there is, but it's not like it's just some basement dweller making stuff up to lie to them. It's more like the Internet Research Center has all this funding in Moscow, or St. Petersburg, or but all this funding is coming from like the Russian Federation to just lie to people, to just fry people's brains. So we have all these people in our country now who just think they're just schizo, everything's a psyop, everything's a false flag crisis actor, and it's because we have hostile foreign entities who have access to the internet and just can spread their lies and just lie to people, and we're just completely defenseless because there's nothing in the American media or character that would defend against it. This is what I'm saying. I've said from the beginning, if America would get into the war, it would fix our problems, because you would have to start looking at foreign infiltration. If you wanted to get serious about winning in Ukraine and winning a global war, if you identify China, you identify Russia, then you're going to start looking at things like foreign infiltration and how foreign entities are infiltrating our system and spreading their lies. And this is going to fix a lot of problems, because however many stuff, just alone, there's however much stuff in America that can't get fixed because of the amount of disinformation. And we don't even know. Figure going back to the 60s, how much of that, the protest movement, was like KGB funded, and they put billions of dollars. The KGB put more money into disinformation in the US than they did into like helping the Vietnamese. That might not be I might need to brush up on that. There's a statistic there that I think I might be, but I'll look into it. But they put a lot of money into probably not as much support as they put totally into the support they did for the Vietnam. But I think there's a claim that they put even more money into their disinformation ops, just financing all the stuff in the U.S. to just make people so dumb. And then people are spouting communism and the left, but they don't know it's all from Russia. And it's the same thing now, and nothing's changed. Oh, the Cold War is over. No, nothing's changed. Like people really have it twisted. Like, well, after there's a Cold War, and then the U.S. tried to just rape Russia, and then they just talk about the Russian oligarchs that rape Russia. The Russian now, how much of these people's ideas, Russia's whole war is about fighting the Nazis, and this should put into perspective how much programming the American people dealt with before this war of Nazi, punch Nazis, like the enemy is the Nazis, the enemy, and then the Russians are like, hey, this is a war for denazification. You don't think that they said that for a reason, or that they'd been preparing that with their information ups? Antifa is a Russian thing. Like that, Russia used to have Antifa schools and stuff like that. You know that like the German officers they captured at Stalingrad, they like Seidlitz and so on, that they sent them to Antifa schools, and these people came out. They came out like they came out like they're pro-Russian. This is re-education. And so we have this presence of Antifa on the streets, and but people only want to look at the Russian funding one way. Well, the Russians helped Trump. Well, the Russians always help. They always go both ways. The Russians just want chaos, and they do this in Russia as well. In Russia, what they do is they fund the opposition to discredit the opposition. So then you say, well, the opposition is suspect. It's covertly funded by the government. In the U.S., they just spread the rumors, and then our people, we have enough traitors to just spread them uncritically. There isn't a similar American, as much as people act like there is, there isn't, there's no American Internet Research Agency where all these people are like trolling in like Chinese and Russian, and they're flooding our country with this filth, and it's just the most brute, base people are picking up on it. And so what? They're conservative or whatever. They're with the these people are filth. They're like it does. You could be a lowlife on either side. I don't really care that much. Like, I mean, there's people who are just on a higher level, whether beyond politics, and then there's just people who are just on the lowest level. No matter what they say their politics are, every word that comes out of their mouth is garbage. And I'd say that if a libtard is supporting Ukraine and they don't, they just see a country that invaded another and they just said that's really awful and they just want to help like defend the people who are like defending their homeland. I think that's a Christian good. That's like a good gesture. That's a good deed. I think that just shows goodness, in someone. If they're a libtard, then it's the libtards have more goodness in them. And if conservatives want it the other way, they just want to see Russia just rape and kill everyone, then what could be said about them? I find it disappointing in their, like, I would rather both sides just do right. I wouldn't celebrate if the other, if it was switched around either. However people can make this happen, I think it's this war is a good thing to push to push for, and to get on board with. But it could solve a lot of problems if we did take it seriously and we did just get, if we looked at things from the point of view of like what is military expedient, how do you win a war? How do you order your society to dominate? We'd have to start asking hard questions, and we'd figure some stuff out. But one of the things definitely would be to just bash down all the underman, just the spiteful slanders of the Stocking Mill Coffee people, and any kind of like underman, any kind of person like that, just low life, just inferior. That's how I look at things, and there's a superior and there's an inferior. If what you're spouting is just a bunch of orc nonsense, then guess which one you are. I don't care. I think left wing and right wing is a dumb way to look at it. We have the inferior people. I'm saying this is Stocking Mill Coffee people. A lot of these people are in the conservative camp. And I mean, just look at their intelligence level. Abysmal. And if we're going to let these people just run with lies and slanders, it's going to be very bad for our country. Stocking Mill Coffee is very bad for America. This guy runs his mouth on Twitter. Let's see. But yeah, this guy, he better pay up. He says he'll give me the money, give me the money. You got to pay up. Stocking milk coffee. I hate Stocking milk coffee. I hate Russia and Ukraine. I signed up to fight for my country. You can go to Ukraine and fight. You don't have to, so on and so forth. And then we'll pay for your travel as well. Stocking milk coffee. Put up or shut up. You say you'll pay for my money. Send the money. You could Zelle it. You could Venmo it. You could do Bitcoin. But I tell the guy, all right, he says you have to come to Daytona, Florida. I'm nowhere near Daytona, Florida. That you could Zelle it. You can Venmo it. I don't need to. You said you'd pay for this. You're telling me to do it. Just give me the money. I'll do it. If I'm lying, then call me out later. But money first. Anyhow, Stocking milk coffee, you're trash. You're a coward. Your coffee sucks. Anyone who drinks your coffee is, I mean, whatever. Anyhow, Stocking milk coffee is the coffee of cowards. All right.